Welcome to the November 4th, 2025 We the People meeting. We're going to have a good, lively discussion today, and we're talking about immigration. Um, there's a lot of good people I'll introduce later that are part of this, but I'll just start while we're waiting for everyone to join. I'll start with a quick few thoughts regarding this group and the meeting and such. Um, I wanted to start with a discussion about our group. So our group, We the People Meet. We started as several people that didn't have the same political leaning, a Democrat, Republican, and a Libertarian. And our goal is to facilitate discussion between individuals with different leanings, but in a respectful way, because it gets so vitriolic online and things like that, that we want to have a place where people know that I can come and discuss with people of the opposing view in a safe environment where I don't have to feel like I'm hurting people's feelings or going to start a fight or whatnot. So one of the rules of this group is that we do not allow personal attacks. It's got to be about the principles, and you have to discuss respectfully. So that's how this group started, and I believe that if we can do that more, whether in this group or other groups, that's what'll save America is discussions without fighting, without blaming, fighting, whatever. We need to come together as Americans first, not as fighting as Republicans against Democrats or conservatives against liberals, but Americans with different viewpoints coming together to find common ground. And I also view this meeting as kind of a board meeting, that we are the owners and beneficiaries of this business that is the US government, and we've hired people to run it. And if, in the way that we would like it run, these employees many times have enriched themselves at the peril of the average citizen, and they are not celebrities to worship. They are people serving us most, that are supposed to be serving us humbly and representing the will of the people, not their own will. But I think we've strayed away from that a lot with those that we've elected over and over again. And we've also seen, do things like run us closer and closer to bankruptcy as a country, spend our Social Security savings, um, allow foreigners that are dangerous, not just the good foreigners, but the ones that are dangerous through our borders. Um, and ultimately, we can blame them, but we also have to look at ourselves as the people that we are, as I call us, the board members, and that is ultimately up to us to safeguard our republic. And anyway, that's kind of an intro to our group. And with that, I want to introduce some of the people that we've asked to be at this meeting. And so I'm going to go through that really quick here, just to pull up my cheat sheet because I get nervous under pressure. So I've got to have my cheat sheet here. Hold on. Okay. We've got Jamie Renda. She is the president of Path Forward Utah. We've got Corrine Johnson, who's the president of Utah Parents United. Um, Mike Kennedy is going to join us. His assistant is with us right now, HD. And let's see, we were going to have Amy Wiley, who is part of the Good Samaritan Foundation, join us. I'm sad that she can't make it. She got into a big project that she could not leave, but I'll probably just share briefly what I know about that group, which isn't a whole lot, but I've really grown to appreciate that group a lot. So um, with that, I wanted to go into the conversation with a graph. And so I'm going to pull that up really quick here. Hold on. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully start some conversation from this graph. So start with this one. Um, this is the migrant numbers of the U.S. Mexican border. It's put out by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. And I don't mean this to be a partisan talk. It definitely tends to be that no matter what, but I don't want to go there today. I just want to show what the numbers have been. So, since 2018, we've had a skyrocketing of people crossing the border. And just to be frank, I'm just an individual. This is a meeting that's supposed to be groups of citizens. I don't represent any particular group except for this We the People Meet group, which I'm just one of the members. And my opinion is that it's gotten way out of hand, and now it's maybe even too small. But just looking at this, it seems like it'd be better if it just maintained a steady amount. And but anyway, these are the border encounters over the last 7 years, and so I wanted to start with that and to see if anyone has any comments. Is that good for us? Has this been good for us as a country? If not, why? And just see if anyone has any thoughts on that. That may have some personal experience. Maybe your organization has some experience, but just I wanted to throw that out there and see what you guys think about it. Don't everyone talk at once. Then I'll have to talk, and then I'm talking too much. So, but I will talk about it. I will say that I've read enough and heard firsthand stories enough to know, at least I feel like I know, that there was a real agenda to get as many people here illegally during the last 4 or 5 years as possible by the previous administration. It feels to me like it was an agenda and that it was benefiting that administration somehow or another. How that benefited them, I'm not sure, but it seemed like it was an agenda. Does anyone know, was this good for our country? Was it bad for our country having that many people come across illegally?
I'll go ahead and pipe in. I was trying to get a demo, also a graph, and I'll find a
Yeah.
way to get it posted on
Uh-huh.
the impact of Utah.
Yeah.
And
I've
so
got
no, I
this.
don't.
Is that the
Yeah.
one that you're thinking
Yep.
of? Okay.
Yep.
So
And
this, yeah, go ahead.
no, it hasn't been. And just kind of for those who don't know what our group does, but I've been doing outreach with a conservative message to Black Americans and minorities as a whole for 25 plus years.
Hmm.
And Path Forward Utah has been actively involved with fighting against some bad, what we consider bad policy, critical race theory,
Hmm.
DEI. But at the same time, there's a lot of work to be done. So I see this as harmful in economically, our housing prices going up. I see it harmful in race relations.
Hmm.
Having that, anytime you have that type of influx, uh, and all at one time, you don't have people that are embracing the American dream, embracing American values. We weren't requiring any assimilation into our country and into our value system, and that causes division.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. So division, what kind of division, maybe you could clarify what kind of division do you see that causing? Or where do you see that in our state, that division that you see?
Oh, I see it just in, when people can't afford to buy a home, young
Hmm.
people can't afford to buy a home, or anybody afford to buy a home,
Hmm.
and then you see that type of influx coming in, people look at uh, blame, people, and this isn't just with quote Caucasians, this is with Black Americans, Latino Americans, but it tends to cause more of that um, us and them mentality versus when, like you said, if it was a steady flow of immigrants that were coming in, that
Hmm.
were adapting and embracing America for the incredible opportunity that it is,
Hmm.
assimilated into our value system, you don't feel that us and them as much.
Yeah.
And with this influx just in Utah, you'll see that the natural increase of population, meaning through our birth rates, it went down.
Hmm.
And the domestic immigration shot up tremendously in 2020. And again, I think that was a direct result of the Summer of Love, or uh, the Black Lives Matter, the Antifa movement, and just the racial disagreements that were out publicly as cities were burning down in Portland and Seattle. We had an influx of domestic immigration. But then right after that, you'll see that our international immigration, which could mean anything from people with student visas to illegal immigration to legal immigration. And you see that even in 2021, how that number is 3 times what the average has been for, the 10 years prior to that. And in 2022, it shifts to 5, 6 times that number. And it just, that type of demographic shift that so quickly happened, I think,
It's
and
a
it,
strain.
yeah, it's a strain on our school systems. You look at education, that's been a horrible strain on our education system.
Can you state your name and the group you're with that you're the president of, just and tell us just a quick, brief overview of what your group does?
Path Forward Utah, and we do kind of a whole lot of things, but our predominant focus is outreach to inner city communities, minority communities, on teaching them how the political system works, how to advocate for themselves and their community, and in building community relations. But we've been actively involved in things that impact that. We just did an immigration forum in August, and we have another one that's going to be coming up after the first of the year.
So you're on the streets helping these people from other countries to assimilate and to find a life here once they get here.
I wouldn't say other countries. I mean, our outreach has been to Americans. Now, do we find people that are they're immigrants from other countries as we're doing that? Absolutely. But that's not our outreach. Our outreach is to
All people.
All people, and to those who don't understand how the political system works as much in more inner city communities, inner city Ogden or Rose Park or West Valley, and just teaching people how the political system works and educating them.
Just really quick, what do you mean by the political system, how that works? Like, give me an example of what kind of training that might be.
Connecting them with their leaders, their elected leaders, helping them know how to advocate. Corrine Johnson's on the call too. We have partnered with Utah Parents United for the last, Corrine, is this our 4th year or 5th year?
Believe it or not, I think it's actually our 6th year.
Okay.
Doing our Capitol tour outreach.
And yeah, Corrine, you want to say, like, because Utah Parents United put this together, and then we partnered with them on this particular on the Capitol tour, where they get to meet every level of government, from the treasurer's office, the auditor's office, House, the Senate, the Attorney General, and just physically see that. But then we work with people on how the caucus system works, how to get involved, how their local leaders from state school, well, from local school board to state school board to the mayor, the city council, and why it's important to find an area that they can have oversight and involvement on, depending on what their issues are.
And what percentage of the people you help would you say are minorities, just out of curiosity?
Minor, probably 80%.
Okay.
Minorities.
Yeah.
In Path Forward Utah, not.
That's pretty high percentage. So I appreciate that there's someone there to help them. And what if they are in need of the basic necessities of life? Is that something you guys help with, or do you help find them some place that they can go to get food if they don't have jobs, or what do you run into that a lot?
Not a whole lot, but I mean, there are people. We work with 2 different food banks that are part of Hope of Utah, which is our secondary organization. We work with Pastor Jesse, who's been feeding our homeless for the last 14 years every Sunday, in inner city Ogden every Saturday for the last 10 years.
Yeah. So I wanted to make the point here that as we're talking about illegal immigration or immigration that's legal, that me personally, and I hope all of us understand that they're children of God. They're not when a lot of times there's a negative connotation when you say illegal immigrant, and that I don't view it that way unless they're here trying to do something wrong, they're
Well,
trying to find,
I'm gonna
yeah,
interject there, Rob,
yeah,
because again, we are a nation of
mhm,
immigrants, and I think that enriches our nation.
yes,
However, I do think there is a big difference between those who come through the system properly and those who don't. And I don't have an issue with the term illegal because that's actually the terminology that's used in our government, illegal immigrant.
right,
And that doesn't make them an illegal person. It just means that they're here in our country illegally.
right,
And and it's not just the crossing of our border.
right,
It's at that point, how do they earn income? They either have to do it under the table. It sits up. I owned a restaurant.
mhm,
And if you're a business owner, and you are as well, there's those businesses who abide by the rules and regulations of our city or county or the health department. There's those that don't. It creates unfair business practices.
mhm,
The businesses who are hiring people that are not here legally don't pay workman's comp. They don't pay unemployment insurance. There's a lot of the regulations they don't have to follow. So they're either working under the table for cash, not paying taxes, or they're working with somebody else's social security number, or they're working as a W-9 employee or on a 1099, again, that aren't going to be paying taxes. So it's not just the act of crossing the border illegally. That continues to produce other things that you and I would go to prison for.
right, right. Yep, makes sense. Um, does anyone have any other comments before we continue on? This is an open forum, so if anyone wants to jump in, you can anytime. Any thoughts? Okay. Um, I will say that, you know, right now the president has, made a big push to get people to self-export or to have ICE come and get them and take them across the borders. And I feel for these people that have come during this time because they may, they were being invited. It's like we have a bipolar government here. Come on over. We're going to give you free health care. Everything's going to be great. We'll help you find jobs. We'll put you in, we'll fly you to where you need to go when you first come here. And then who wouldn't do that? If you're in a foreign country that with very little ability to earn an income or to progress to the next level, to know, hey, this is my ticket to the United States of America, where I can improve myself. Who wouldn't do that? And then we have that flip-flopped upside down, and it's we're going to take you back. So I feel for them, and I feel for them, especially if they've been here for many years and gotten established and haven't done it legally because it hasn't been a push of the previous administrations all the time, and then they're taken away. So I can feel for them, but at the same time, I can see how it hurts our country to have these types of change that we're not ready to take on without changing substantially the way that we operate the country and our schools, et cetera. So I can see both sides. And I definitely view every person as a child of God and someone that's just trying their best to survive for the most part. Um, but it has turned into a mess, and I view it partially because we cannot get a immigration policy that makes sense. I personally have a relative that came across as a refugee because her life was in danger, and came across illegally as a refugee, and it would have been dangerous for her to go back. And she married someone here, and it took her tons of money, tons of time, legal bills, everything to become a citizen. And I don't think it should be that hard. I think that we've made it easier to come across illegally than we've have made it to come across legally. And that's not a problem of Mexico or Canada or any bordering country or any country that they fly in from. That's a problem with our country. And ultimately, it's a problem with us who hires these legislators that make it easier to come across illegally. So it comes down to us, the people. We haven't stood up and pushed enough to get immigration enough of an issue. Um, So anyway, that's that's where I think we need to stand up, come together as Democrats, Republicans, everything, and make some common sense pushing towards our legislators to make legislation that works and makes sense for everybody. Um, any thoughts on that? Oh,
Well, if nobody else is jumping in.
yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things, because the communities we work in and reach out to, where do illegal immigrants normally go? They don't go to above, I live in Ogden, they don't go to above Harrison neighborhoods. They don't go to Holiday.
Hmm.
They go to Rose Park, they go to inner city Ogden, and they go to West Valley and deplete already very scarce resources that these communities need.
Hmm.
And whether it's our food banks, there's one food bank that I work with, Pasture One, here in inner city Ogden, that has seen in the last 4 years a big increase of those that are here not legally,
Hmm.
and over where he oftentimes doesn't have things left over for the families that he's been serving for years before.
Right.
So again, the impact it has on our most vulnerable Americans, I think, is oftentimes overlooked.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and and Mike, I'd like to welcome Mike Kennedy, our House of Representatives member representing one of the four districts in Utah. Um, I just wanted to ask you, do you know if there's been any talk about making it easier to get in legally than illegally, or if we're wrong by saying that? Is there talk amongst legislators on making changes to that? Mike, you're muted. I don't know if you are hearing us.
Rob, I'm unable to respond right now just based on my circumstance. So you'll have
Okay.
to continue the conversation. I'm just listening. Thank you.
Oh, yep, no problem at all. Okay. I have not heard much about it. Over the years, it's been a talking point for people running for office often, but I haven't really seen much talked about once people get into office. It's mostly during election season that I hear people saying, immigration reform, I will work on that, and then never hear anything again about that. Again, that's their fault, but it's our problem because we don't demand that as a people. I know Donald Trump recently made a rule that that a company, if you want someone here to become a citizen to work here, that you have to pay $100,000. I might have said that wrong. Maybe it's just to get a work visa. I don't remember, but I remember the $100,000 price tag to get someone over here that's being a very responsible, productive member of our society has to pay $100,000. It seems a little steep to me. They might just find, I don't know if it
Well,
costs us to get smuggled in or not, but it just seems like it's easier to come illegally than legally.
that was for specific type of visa, and that's
Yeah.
also to make sure that people in that area of industry are not getting undercut, because these companies bring in people from India
Uh-huh.
to work that will work for less money, for a lot longer hours, and they put demands on these employees that a lot of Americans that are just as qualified to take those jobs, but they don't want to pay the same. So I think that's to level the playing field a
Hmm.
little bit, that if there's truly not the American market for it, but
Right.
and that's in your tech and your
Hmm.
other industries that I think that impacted, or that was part of.
Okay. And
Rob,
yeah.
I have a couple thoughts here. And thank you again for inviting me to participate in this.
Hmm.
Utah Parents United represents parents in the state of Utah.
Yes.
And we absolutely believe that there has definitely been an impact on the education system from what we've seen. And this chart shows it. But I think philosophically, what we've experienced as well is this massive pendulum swing that we see happening in society.
Mhm.
And it's everything from illegal immigration to what happened during COVID, what's experiences in the public education system where we watched the policies and the way taxpayer dollars were being spent from a federal, state, and local level absolutely swing like very, very far away from focusing on the nuclear family, supporting our ability to thrive and teach our children and support our children and have positive experiences in society and in education, to a very, what we call like this woke agenda, right? This just everything goes from let everyone into the country, let's teach whatever we want in our education system, be whoever you want to be, like losing those traditional American values. And we just felt this pendulum swing really fast to those progressive movements that definitely impacted us as parents and being able to raise our children, our property taxes climbing, all of these things. And we've had the opportunity to elect a new president. And I think that everyone is just waiting for the pendulum. The pendulum has to swing back, but there has to be this abruptness that stops it. And this chart is a perfect illustration of where I'm really okay right now with this absolute drop. Like everything's got to freeze. There has to be a moment where we are able to just set everything back.
Absorb this for a minute.
Absorb what has happened in our country, absorb these spikes, and give us a minute to readjust to what we hope we can then move forward. And so I'm not as concerned right now about pushing for reform that will make it easier for people to immigrate to the country. Like right now, that's not, I'm fine. We're okay because it swung so far that we realize it's going to take time. It's going to swing this way now for it to settle in the middle again. And I think most of us want to see a middle ground in this policy. But, I worked for Salt Lake County for a while as well. And, we definitely saw the impact of, sorry, I've got garage noise. We definitely saw the impact of this in the taxpayers' budget. We fund vaccines through the health department in Salt Lake County. And we had to continue to use funding, pulling from other resources in the county to continue to fund our health fund for free vaccines for the county at a rate of a 300% increase over what we were funding previously. And with that high level of increase, it's going to take some time for us to get back to, the ground floor and where we need to be. So I think it's important that we have these conversations in the future, but it's whiplash. And I'm just grateful we can take a pause and hopefully recover some of what we've been facing, the challenges we've been facing with the pendulum swing. So those are just some of my thoughts from a parent perspective.
Okay. And I want to encourage anyone else that has any thoughts that hasn't spoken up yet. Now's your time to share any opinions you have. If you have any that you'd like to share. Anyone else? Okay.
Rob, if I could jump in really quick, and I apologize. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm at the Salt Palace at another convention today, and I'm kind of in a dungeon in this quiet room by myself, but it's also a very large room. So I'm sorry if it's echoey, but I would touch base. I know that Congressman Kennedy, he's unable to be on the live mic right now, but one thing that Congress is working on to address illegal immigration, and not just illegal immigration, but our legal systems of immigration as well, is the Dignity Act. And that is a bipartisan piece of legislation that's going through the House of Representatives right now. And essentially what it does, and I am going to read off my phone because there's quite a bit to it, but if I could just give a little bit of an overview, and then I'm happy to dive into further details later on. We can get our legislative team involved because they've been following this closely, as has the congressman. And I would just say really quickly, so essentially what the Dignity Act does, and again, I'm reading a summary off of my phone because I'm not well spoken on it, but I do know it's something that we're working on, is that it essentially creates two different programs involving immigration to the United States. The first is called the Dignity Program, which is a 7-year deferred action program for undocumented immigrants who arrived before January 1st, 2021. So as part of that program, participants must pay a $7,000 restitution fee over 7 years. As they're doing that, they receive work authorization and also protection from deportation. I would add that Dignity program, as part of this Dignity Act, they do share a similar name there, but this program within the act, that by itself does not provide a path to citizenship. So it's not a fast track or an easy track. Pay this $7,000 and become a U.S. citizen. It doesn't work that way. There is a second program within the Dignity Act that addresses a potential path to citizenship, and that is called the Redemption Program. This program is optional. It's a 5-year program that could be a pathway to permanent residency, as I said. And it has a couple of additional requirements, and that is that participants must learn English and take a U.S. civics course. They must also complete community service or make additional contributions to the American Worker Fund. And that if they do that along with the Dignity program, it's still not a fast track, if you will. What that does is it's a path to citizenship that would put them at the back of the line. So they would wait just like anybody else who was coming in and applying for legal citizenship to the United States. Just because they complete the program doesn't mean that, like I said, they don't just complete it and then they become a U.S. citizen. That's just to get them to the end of the line. And that's one thing that Congress is taking a very close look at right now, and deciding if maybe there's some potential there, because it's like you said, it's not just a matter of the illegal immigration that is the hot topic during the campaign speeches and things, that we need to address that. I think we can see that different presidential administrations can prioritize how much they want to focus on that. I mean, those graphs you shared show that.
Yeah.
But we also need to make the legal immigration process easier for people. We need to, like you said earlier, we need to make it so that they're not overburdened, and that there's not more of an incentive to come in illegally because of the hurdles that come legally. And so that's one piece of legislation that Congress is also working at. I would also put one more plug in, and then I'll have shared my 2 cents, and that is that every congressional office is able to assist individuals with their immigration casework and statuses. So that could involve us reaching out to USCIS. It could be us reaching
Can you
out
say
to
that again? Every
So every congressional office has caseworkers located within their districts. And those caseworkers, what they do is if somebody reaches out and says, I'm having trouble with whatever process it may be, it could be a visa, it could be with their path to citizenship, or what have you. They say, it could be with USCIS, it could be with Customs and Border Patrol, it could be with ICE, whatever the case may be. They reach out and say, I'm having X issue, whatever that may be, with this agency. Can you help me? It could be they're not getting a response. It could be that their application has been delayed for some reason. Like I said, there's countless reasons for them to reach out, but that is a service that congressional offices provide. Is we have liaisons within those agencies that we work well with. We reach out to them and we say, "Hi, I'm HD. I'm calling from Congressman Kennedy's office. He asked that I reach out in behalf of this individual," and we show them we have a privacy release, so we show them that we have that individual's permission to reach out, and we're just curious why this application has been delayed, or why they're not getting a response, or again, whatever the issue may be. It's not a guarantee that we get a favorable resolution, but a lot of the times we can have good conversations. There may have just been a piece of paper that needed to be signed. There may just be the answer is sorry. The only thing to do is just wait. But at least the individual who's reached out to our office is not left wondering. And so that's a service we provide as well. And that's, again, anybody can reach out. If they live outside of the congressional third district, we make sure that we get them connected with their proper district and caseworker. Maybe it's somebody who lives in Congressman Owen's district, or someone who lives in Congressman Moore's district, whatever the case may be. We'll reach out to that office and make sure that there's a warm handoff. But it is something that we do as well. So it's not just the legislation. We also have day-to-day work to help individuals who are going through these things as well.
Okay, that is wonderful. That's good to hear. So one of the biggest concerns with the people that started this group with me was that there was real fear when Donald Trump became the president that people were going to be punished because they have posted favorable posts about Biden and negative posts about Trump. People from the left that joined this group were seriously in fear of getting having a group like ICE does right now, just come and take you away. You know what I mean? And these were real fears that people had. And me, I've always tried to expose the evils in our government. And I have to say I've had not that it's kept me up at night, but I've thought there's could be a time when, because of my conservative views and me trying to out groups like the Council on Foreign Relations, that I could have someone come to my door and take me away. That's not the American way, but that is part of the reason why the people that came together to start this group was because of the fear. And we thought we can stick together as American citizens and make sure that proper constitutional measures are taken care of before someone's carted away for something. Due process is utilized, and that no one has to live in fear of that happening to them if we all kind of stick together as people and put people in office that will honor the Constitution no matter what, and honor due process before taking someone away. So that's fueled the fire those that are on the left, to see people getting hauled away by ICE and then it might, whether it's true or not, people post, hey, they have documents, why are they getting hauled away? And then ICE responds back and says, no, they didn't have documents, but it fuels that fear. So having an office that you can call is really nice to know. I didn't know that. And just in our last meeting last week, we have a local businessman I think he mentioned it, so I can probably re-mention it. He had donated some money to help a family get back together because two parents were taken away and left two kids that did not have a way to sustain themselves. And so there were individuals coming together to try to fund a flight for them to get to their parents in Venezuela. I have not, I don't know if I have a way to research and find out how much of that is exactly true. And the people that had made those claims aren't at this meeting this time, but they will be in future. But I trust that it's true. Maybe there's some other circumstances involved that I'm unaware of. But what would HD, if someone called you and said, "Hey, these two people are being hauled away by ICE. They're leaving two of their kids because the kids were born here 10 years ago." They're not going to be able to support themselves. Is that something that your office would say, let's look into this a little bit and just see, should we hold them here, make sure that we got to decide whether these two have someone to take care of them here or they're going with them so that families don't get split up? How would that look like?
Yeah, it's a great point, and it is one that we've seen, make headlines this year, and we have received calls about in the office. And I'll actually defer to Hannah Johnson on this call,
Oh,
if she's
hi.
okay to take it. Hannah is one of our immigration caseworkers in the
Oh,
office,
good,
and so
good.
she can tell you exactly what she would do if we got a call like that.
I've been sitting here wondering who Hannah Johnson is. As I see your face, but I didn't know who you were with. So I'm glad that we found out. So go ahead, Hannah.
Cool. Okay, so with that, it would depend on the particular case in terms of what we're able to do, but I would be reaching out to ICE to see kind of what the status is with the parents. And I will note from my interactions with ICE, they do keep in mind family situations when they can.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's something I would defer to them on. But no, we would always check into it with ICE and then see what we can do, especially in an urgent case like that. I'm always happy to help with any way we can. It would just also depend on what we're able to do in terms of house ethics rules.
Gotcha. Okay. So at least it would be looked at, and so I view us as a state. We have, states are supposed to have somewhat sovereignty. I don't know if you'd call it that, but the Constitution grants any powers that aren't specifically given to the federal government to the states, and the federal government is a creation of the states. So the states should have a lot of power in most cases. I'd say if there's any one case they have less power, it's probably something to do with immigration because it affects the whole entire country. You know what I mean? And that is in the Constitution, that given to the federal government more power in that. But most things outside of that have a lot of power to the states. But I'm glad to hear that they at least will listen to what the states are saying. Then you have rogue states that just want to keep, piling as many people in the country that come illegally into their state. And I view that as kind of a seditious act, especially when there's a president that does not want to keep that flow of people coming in. But but anyways, just some thoughts on that. But yeah, we've had in the last few meetings we've talked about situations like this, and for goodness sakes, we've had thousands of people marching at the Capitol about this issue, and I think marching is great to get attention, but then you have to sometimes sit down and start talking, And I was hoping I keep reaching out to the Democratic Party and hoping that they'll join in these conversations. I have a hard time getting more of the liberal Democratic side to join and talk, but I think it's important that they start talking in groups like this and working through real solutions because marching does alert everyone to know that there is an issue that people are concerned with, but it doesn't really come up with solutions. So in our last meeting, we started coming up with some solutions. One of our members talked about DACA and that there was a compromise a few years ago that was going to give 2 million people that were born here, I think, a path to citizenship, that were born here to people that were here as illegal immigrants. And that seems to have died down. Um, but somehow we have to make it so that there's not millions of people living illegally here. You know what I mean? It's a problem when people have to be afraid, oh, I can't get this job because I don't have the right documents. Or can I hire this person because I'm not sure if they're here legally? It's a problem for business owners like me. It's a problem for people here illegally. And it's not a good situation when people have to be feeling like they're hiding here in the United States. That's not a good situation. Again, it's been created by our elected officials on both sides. It's not just one side or the other, but I think it is more one. I think the Democrats have contributed to it more, obviously, but a lot of Republicans have done their part to create this problem. And it's the people that just need to stand up and say it's not, this is enough. But back to back to this, we talked about what needs to be done, and yes, either have them go back to their original country or provide a path to citizenship. One or the other, right? Is there any other solution besides those two solutions that anyone can think of?
Well, can I pitch in just for 1 second? I have to go into the dentist and get a tooth pulled. But
Absolutely.
I'm glad that HD brought up the Dignity Act. Congressman Salazar from Florida is the one that presented that. Initially, it looked like it was going to be shot down. That's one actually that I've looked into, and I was actually going to try to have her as a guest speaker at our next immigration forum.
Hmm.
And so that is this bridge between the two that
Right.
allows people to perhaps have a pathway to citizenship, but after getting in the back of the line, they can't cut in front of those who've been trying to get here illegally.
That makes sense.
But I would, it's eight. Do you go by HD?
Yes, that's my
Okay.
first name.
So I would hope that we would include one thing in that negotiation, and that is to make sure that congressional appropriations are not based on people that are here illegally. So that would be something that should be negotiated into the Dignity Act, is that proportionment is not based, that's only based on American citizens.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's something y'all can get in there in these negotiations. I didn't realize that was starting to pick up steam. So
Yeah, we're happy to take a look at that.
Okay. Then another suggestion in our last meeting was that we have very good monitoring of people that are here through visas so that we know when their visa expires and either work with them to get it renewed or have them go back to their country so that this issue doesn't exist anymore where there's people here illegally, and try to make it so that everyone's accounted for. The person, Kent Bowman, he was in the last meeting, he talked about how we should have everyone carry a card that has 6 statuses. Either they're a citizen, green card, student visa, tourist visa, ambassador visa, or one or two other that he can think of, that everybody should have a card that shows that they're here legally, or if they're pulled over in a car accident or for speeding or whatever, that okay, well, you don't have a card. Let's look up in the system. Yes, your visa expired. Let's get you worked on or have you go back to your country. work on solving this. And he said as a society, we're kind of against being monitored by Big Brother, so that might get some people upset that they have to carry a card, but that is one option. Anyway, does anyone have any thoughts on that? Nope. Let's see.
State endorsed digital identity is the answer.
State endorsed dual identity, is that what you said?
Digital identity. But that is a whole conversation by itself. So if you want to schedule that for one of your meetings,
I'd love to.
I'd be happy to bring the experts.
So state endorsed, I like that because that does take away the Big Brother feel. And if you don't feel like a state is kind to your type, then you can go to another state. It's hard to say you can go to another country because there's no country quite like the United States of America. So yeah, that is something that I'd love to have a conversation in the future. Thanks, Kristen.
You're welcome.
We've got about 10 minutes left. I do have one topic that is kind of backtracking a little bit, more theoretical, but the key to me is that we need to have something that the residents, the citizens, and eventually all of our representatives in Congress understand that we don't like this as a people. We don't like having this fight over illegal immigrants coming in our country. Border security has always been talked about from both sides until it became a political issue where Trump said that was one of his platforms. Then that was the cue to the left to fight against it, even though they had fought for it in the past. That is a given. If you're going to have any security against terrorism, against illegal drugs, against any security, then you need secure borders. Just like children need rules in a home to keep them secure, just like you have to have locks on your door, you need to have security as a country to protect yourselves from foreign invasion, from bad workers, bad actors coming in the country. That seems like it was a given until a few years ago. That needs to happen. Then you solve the problem with the ones that are here so far as with as much dignity as possible, and reduce the amount of people that are here illegally. And then, like someone commented earlier, at that point, maybe we can start getting these numbers to go back up in a controlled fashion, that we're bringing people that are going to be helpful to our nation. And then the other thing is, when there are rare cases, when hopefully there's rare cases where, because of extenuating circumstances, the taking away of a family member leaves someone that is in a bad situation, maybe that is when the communities come together and help them. And that is exactly what one of the members of this group that I was hoping would come, didn't make it, was trying to find that that group's name so I can share it with you. Hold on. There's a group that is helping people in this situation in Salt Lake City, and it is the Good Samaritan Foundation has been helping some people that are in the situation that one case that they brought up in our last meeting was there were two people that were here illegally, but their parents were here as citizens, and they were too old to support themselves. They were being supported by their children that were here, their child and spouse, and they got deported, and the older parents now don't have a place that they can live, and food to eat. So they've jumped in to try to help. And so, having groups like the Good Samaritan Foundation, I'd suggest people donate to that, to help those that are in a tough situation because of go back to the bipolar nature of our government over the last few years. That it does create some unavoidable situations. So in that case, I think we treat them as brothers and sisters, those that are struggling, and help them out and show love and show support financially where needed. So anyway, I think that's the answer. I think those are it sounds like some really good answers over time, the Dignity Act. And can I ask too, for HD, do you know what kind of support? You said this is bipartisan. Are we getting equal support from both parties, or is it going to pass because there's enough support, or are we having some pushback from either party? And if so, what's the reason for that pushback on this?
So I will follow up with you on that. I don't know off the top of my head, and so I don't want to speculate, but I can find out. Again, I do know it is bipartisanly supported. I don't know what those numbers look like or what the pushback is. But can follow up with you, Rob, and maybe you can share that with the group in a future meeting.
Sounds good. And also, I will say I've seen cases where someone was being taken away by ICE and they fought back, and it becomes a big national thing. And then you look into it and find out, okay, they really have, either had felonies or they've done this or that or the other. I think it's good to dig into that in a bipartisan way with, it seems like the media, one channel you look at will always focus on the one side of that argument, another channel or multiple channels will focus on another side of that. And it's hard to find the truth nowadays, but I think everyone wants to know that in our country the justice is served blindly, and that's been kind of missing, especially with the politicization and sometimes weaponizing of the government that we've seen on both ends. So anyway,
Rob,
mhm.
I just want to point out that justice can be blind to a certain extent, but it's not justice if it ignores all of the infractions or illegal actions.
Mhm. I
So you
agree.
can't just be blind to everything and call it justice.
Mhm. And that is another point I wanted to bring up in this meeting too. We have to be a country of laws. That is, I mean, we can call ourselves a democratic republic, a constitutional republic. Does not work without laws that people are following. And who makes those laws? It's Congress. It's not the president. It's Congress that makes those laws. The president's job is to enforce those laws. So if a president is not enforcing the laws that are on the books, that is not a constitutional act. If a president is taking too far something that Congress has passed, then that's for Congress to go and adjust and say, okay, we didn't really mean this. But as far as I know, what is happening right now is enforcing the laws that are on the books. If anyone can correct me on that, but it seems like our current president is enforcing the laws that were passed by Congress regarding immigration. So yeah, we have to be a country of law. Hmm. Any thoughts? I think we're winding down a little bit. But I think this is a video that I'm creating. I'm going to be sharing it when people bring up um, abuses by ICE, then it is good to know that we can say, hey, there are things in the works. You can actually call your congressman too, and they can look into it. They'll get to the bottom of it and not just take at face value that someone's being deported when they shouldn't be. I'm sure that there's a good amount of research that goes in before acting on these things, but also there's more that we can do by talking through these things. The last thing, we've got a few minutes. I have been talking through over the last few weeks the book None Dare Call It Conspiracy, where a group called the Council on Foreign Relations, we've been studying into that group. And part of the apparent goal of that group over the years has been to get us into more world agencies like the United Nations and World Economic Forum and things like that to try to make more of a global government. And there are a lot of there are a lot of our previous and previous presidents that have been had ties to this group, including Joe Biden was buddied up with them, and one of their goals is to take down borders so we can all be one world. And I believe that that's part of why the borders were pushed so open during his presidency. And that that group was founded by billionaires that were wanting more power and more financial control over people. And I believe that they are to blame for a lot of the problems we've had over the years. Um, and so I think that pushing back against groups that meet in secret like them is also something that will help us in the long run to avoid these situations too. And I I just thought I'd bring up in passing that this is a list on Wikipedia of the influential members over the years of this group that has wanted one world government or new world order, and it's kind of a who's who of America. And the more we know where a lot of this has come from, the better off we are to know who's pushing for what. And this group has a lot of power in the media to try to push for globalist agendas and things like that. So I just think it's important for us to all understand who the Council on Foreign Relations is and that their goal is and has been in the past, not by their words all the time, but by their actions, and by their words sometimes has been a one world government. So anyway, I'll bring that up as a last thought. Anyone have any thoughts that they want to talk about at this point?
I just wanted to say thanks, Rob, for the invitation. It's been a pleasure to sit down with everyone and hear their opinions.
Yeah. And with that, I appreciate everyone joining us today. And I'll post this on a YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, which is We the People Meet Utah. If you hashtag that on YouTube, We the People Meet Utah, then all of our previous meetings will come up, where we've talked about many different issues. We've interviewed local candidates to some areas. We have talked about that book that I mentioned, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. We've gone through page by page and looked at some of the things over the years. And one of the most influential and powerful groups in the last century is that group for sure. It's important for us to know who they are. And yeah, I would love to have as many of you back next week too. We meet once a week at the same time. And thanks for joining. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.